Celine counted the crack in the throne room tile for the third time. It ran under his left boot, thin, jagged, the kind of fault line that starts small and splits a whole foundation before anyone notices. She had been staring at it for 4 minutes, not at Calum, not at his mouth, which was still moving, still producing the sounds of the decree that was ending her place in this world, at the crack. His voice carried well, it always had. She heard the words the way you hear rain through a closed window, present, organized, not quite real. Severed, dissolved, removed from the record of the Crown Pack. Legal language had a rhythm to it, and his counsel had clearly rehearsed this rhythm, because every pause landed in the right place, and the silence of 300 wolves in that hall confirmed it. Nobody looked at her. That was the thing she would remember longest, not the decree, the quality of the not looking. 300 wolves who knew her name, who had eaten at tables near hers, who had trained beside her in the eastern yard every dawn for 2 years, and every single one of them found something else to see. The floor, the columns, the middle distance, the particular art of the powerful, looking away. Her wolf went quiet inside her. Not the quiet of grief, the quiet of something that has just located a door. Calum finished speaking. The council scribe read back the last line for official record. Celine heard her name in the past tense and felt the bond between them change shape. Not break, not sever the way the decree claimed, but compress, like something folded very small and tucked somewhere out of reach. His doing, deliberate. She registered it the way you register a change in air pressure before weather. I let him do that, she thought. She turned and walked to the door. Not escorted, not hurried. Her boots on the marble made a clean, even sound, and the door at the end of the hall was open, had been open the whole time, a rectangle of gray morning light, and nobody moved to close it as she walked through it, because nobody had thought to, because nobody had imagined she would simply walk. She walked. The door stayed open behind her. The dead territories did not welcome people. That was, in fact, the definition of the dead territories. They were the land past the eastern boundary markers, where the Crown Pack's law stopped, and nothing had replaced it yet. 3 discarded packs lived there, rogues, the cast-offs, the ones who had refused something and paid for the refusal in land and standing and access to the clean rivers. Celine arrived with nothing recognizable as an advantage. She had her wolf. She had 3 years of pack training that Calum's court had provided, without meaning to. She had the particular skill of knowing exactly what it felt like to be looked away from, which turns out to be more useful than it sounds, because the people of the dead territories had been looked away from for a long time, and they could tell, within about 4 minutes of meeting someone, whether that person understood it from the inside or was just performing sympathy. She understood it from the inside. The first pack she approached was called the Greyfoot. 17 wolves, led by a woman named Desta, who had 1 silver-streaked braid, and eyes that measured things. Desta let Celine sit at the fire. Desta gave her food. Desta did not ask her name or her history, because in the dead territories, the name and the history came when the person was ready, and forcing it was considered a kind of violence. 3 nights in, a young rogue named Tor asked who she had been before. Celine looked at the fire and said, "Owed blood." Tor did not ask again. What she built in those 3 years was not a story you could tell quickly. It was the kind of thing made of small, specific moments. A decision made correctly in darkness, a dispute settled without shouting, a direction chosen in bad weather that turned out to be right. Her wolf found the other wolves the way water finds a path, not by forcing anything, but by being consistently, quietly lower than the resistance. They started calling her the Still One. She did not choose the name. She did not correct it. By the end of the first year, she was moving with Greyfoot, like she had grown up among them. By the middle of the second year, 4 other packs had sent representatives to sit at her fires, not because she had invited them, but because word had a way of moving in the dead territories, where information was one of the only currencies that didn't run out. The mate bond flickered once, in the second year. She was asleep when it happened. Calum must have been dreaming, or weak, or briefly guilty, and it came through as warmth on the wrong side of her ribs, unexpected and unwanted. She was awake before she knew she was awake. She lay in the dark. She noted the sensation the way a doctor notes a symptom, She filed it. She went back to sleep. The bond flickered 2 more times after that. She filed those too. By the end of year 3, she had 11 packs at her back, and not one of them had sworn loyalty to her name. They had sworn it to her wolf. She had asked for this specifically. The distinction felt important to her, in a way she could not have explained to anyone who hadn't spent time in a throne room, watching people swear loyalty to a title and mean absolutely nothing by it. She sent no messenger. Messengers implied requests. She had no requests. She simply moved 11 packs to the eastern border of Kalem's territory in the blue hour before dawn, and she stopped them there, and she waited. 3 days of it, silence and held formation, which is one of the most terrifying things a military force can do, because it communicates, more clearly than any war horn, that the people holding still are not nervous. On the 4th morning, she let her wolf surface. Not fully, not the way you surface a wolf in a fight, but enough. The controlled way. The way that sends a signal across the bond network of an entire territory, like a stone dropped in still water. She felt it move outward. She felt it land. Inside Kalem's territory, 4,000 wolves went to their knees simultaneously. She knew this, because the scouts reported it later. She had not seen it. She had been looking at the tree line. Kalem came out alone. His generals argued with him. She found out about that later too, because one of his council members eventually wrote a memoir that described those minutes in detail. The arguing, the 4 men physically moving to block the door, and Kalem walking around them with the specific calm of a person who has already done the math and knows they have nothing left to protect by being careful. He crossed the distance between the territory line and where she stood. She waited. He stopped 8 feet from her and said her name. Celine. The way he said it told her everything she needed to know about the 3 years he had spent. She recognized the texture of the word. She had been carrying a version of it herself, that particular weight, that specific unasked question at the end of a name. She knew what it cost him to say it in front of witnesses. She knew what it cost him to come out alone. She tilted her head. Her wolf's gesture, not hers. At her back, 4,000 wolves exhaled in the same second. She had not planned that. She would think about it later. The fact that they were so attuned to her wolf that her wolf's attention shifting was enough to move their breathing. She would think about it the way you think about something that proves a larger thing you were not prepared to have proven. Kalem felt the bond between them move. She watched it register on his face, a man trying very hard not to react to the thing his body was reacting to. He reached across the bond instinctively, the way you reach toward heat without deciding to. She let her wolf feel it. That was the cruelest thing she did that day. Not the army. Not the silence. Letting her wolf feel his reach, and not pulling it back, and not going to meet it either. Just holding it there, open, in the space between them, so that he understood with perfect clarity the exact shape of what remained. The negotiations were not a war. That was the part that confused his council, who had prepared for a war. They had their maps and their defensive positions, and their supply calculations, and Celine walked past all of it and sat down at the council table and asked for the legal record of the rejection ceremony. They brought it. She read it, slowly, in front of everyone. Then she read the law that had authorized it, then the law behind that law, then the foundational charter clause that the second law had been built upon. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, all of it. The head of the legal council said, I beg your pardon? All of it, Celine said. Every clause, every provision, every legal instrument that made what happened in that throne room possible. I want it removed from the books. Not revised. Removed. The council looked at Kalem. Kalem said, do it. That was not the answer they had expected from him either. The room went a specific kind of quiet that happens when powerful people are outpaced by events and have not yet decided how to react to it. Celine let the quiet sit. Her wolves outside did not move. They had been standing in formation for hours, and they were as still as they had been at the start, and that stillness came through the walls of the council room, the way cold comes through old stone, gradually, undeniably, as proof of something. When the session ended, Kalem found her alone in the corridor outside. He asked her, quietly, not in the register of an alpha king, in the register of a man who has spent 3 years doing the math on a decision and arriving at the same number every time, what she wanted from him. Not politically, personally. She was quiet for a long time. Her wolf moved. It stepped forward in the way that is not physical, not her body, not her feet. The way that exists only in the space between two bonded wolves, the interior geography of something that doesn't have a name in ordinary language. It touched what remained of the connection between them. Carefully, the way you touch something you are not sure will hold your weight. It held. Calum closed his eyes. When he opened them, something in his face had changed, not softened exactly, more like resolved, the way a picture resolves when you have been looking at it from the wrong distance, and you take one step back, and suddenly all the parts are in the right place. He went to his knees. Not because she had commanded it. She had not commanded anything. He went to his knees because his wolf had recognized what was standing in front of him, and his wolf was older and more honest than his pride, and his pride had finally stopped fighting. She looked at him there. She let herself look, for the first time since the throne room, actually look, at his face, at the 3 years written in the lines around his eyes, at the particular way a person looks when they have been right and wrong at the same time for a long time, and have run out of ways to keep those two things separated. She cried. Once, briefly. The wolf-wept kind. Not sound, not shaking, just 2 lines of it. Involuntary, the way your eyes water in wind. Not grief, not forgiveness, something older than both. The specific, physical relief of a creature that has been carrying something at exactly the right tension for exactly the right length of time, and feels the moment it can be set down, and sets it down. She did not explain it. She did not offer it as a sign of anything. She turned. She walked back into the council chamber, where the scribes were still recording, and she picked up the war flag her packs had made for her in the dead territories. Deep gray, the color of the eastern sky before weather, and she carried it herself to the center of the room. She planted it. The base struck the marble with a sound like a period at the end of a very long sentence. She left it there. She walked back out. Past Calum, still in the corridor. Past the generals with their maps. Through the door of the building, down the steps, across the open ground to where her army waited. Behind her, 3 paces back, the bond between them stretched to its full length, and went warm. She felt it, that particular warmth, not the flickering accidental kind from the sleeping years, but something deliberate, something he was choosing, something that asked no question, and made no demand, and simply said, I know what you are now, I know what answered you, I know what I cost. She kept walking. Her wolves fell in around her, quiet and certain, 4,000 bodies moving in the rhythm that had taken 3 years to build, and the eastern road opened ahead of them, and the morning was gray and clean. She did not look back. She did not need to. The bond was warm. That was enough for now. Not everything, not forgiveness, not yet, not the way that word gets used carelessly, but enough. The weight-bearing kind, the kind that holds, the kind that says this is still here, without promising anything about what comes next. Her wolf walked beside her. It had always been hers.